Ahoy all, it is Tease. Good day. I hope all are well, hope all are safe. Okay, yeah, so as you all may know, Queen Elizabeth has spilled over, but in the midst of my rejoicing, and it's not like rejoicing like I'm just evil and I'm just, oh, I just get off on people's death. Like, no, she's actually evil. You knew how many people this lady killed, you would look stupid if you said RIP to her, but I'm not even gonna get into it. But anyway, I only mentioned that because I don't know if this was the last newspaper, or no, I'm sorry, the last magazine cover that she was on since last year, but the last one that I know of or that I can think of was the Time magazine from somewhere. It was from sometime in 2021, so about a year ago. There's a Time magazine cover with her and a few other people, but the heading or the title of that cover is The Last Call. So on this last call, they're at this, I think it's called COP24 or COP26, something like that. But I guess that's kind of like a quote unquote, okay, that word just slipped my mind. But a quote unquote weather control. What's the word for weather control? For some reason it escaped my mind. But it's, as far as who's at this committee for the COP26, I think it is. That's pretty much where they get together, like your presidents or leaders or your spokespersons will get together and you discuss climate change. So the people who I recognized off the top of my head were the young lady who's into climate change. I think it's a young girl. She's maybe a young teen, or I don't think she's quite 18. So she's a young girl who's really big on climate change. It was Biden that was in the front row seat. Queen Elizabeth, she was in the snow, but she was a piece of cardboard. Now, mind you, this is from 2021. And when I noticed, I'm like, okay, she's a piece of cardboard. So that's, at that time, I had already thought, well, okay, well, maybe that means she's already dead, and they're just not telling us, you know, because that was the time too where she had COVID real bad, or she'll be off and on sick. But the only thing you'll get, like, okay, she's sick, and then she'll be back somewhere on the news or something, you know. So, yeah. So as far as the people who I recognize Biden. I recognize the young girl that's into climate change. I recognize Queen Elizabeth. But then in the front seat, there was another lady. I think she was to the far, we'll say she was to the far right. I didn't recognize this lady in the front. And then it's a placeholder for the president of China. Then it's Biden. Then it is, was there anybody in the third seat? I don't remember if anyone was in the front. But also in the snow, in a placeholder, was the president of Brazil. Now, the ones who had the placeholders, they weren't there. It just had a sign on their seat, like, okay, if they were there, they'll be sitting up front with Biden. So, mind you, it's the final call, and the name on this magazine is the Final Call, or The Last Call. But again, you have Queen Elizabeth standing in snow, but she's standing there as a piece of cardboard. So she's not actually there, she's just a piece of cardboard. And again, so there's Biden, and he's in the front seat of his chair, just sitting there chilling. There's a lady on the side that's pretty much like, okay, when will this be over? Then you have the young girl, she's behind her. And then again, you have two placeholders, one to the right and one to the left of Biden. So you have the president of China and then the president of Brazil. Then you have a Negro that represents the church. And I didn't recognize him either, but it was a Negro that represents the church, because he had like on a clergy outfit. But he was like maybe, I would say, behind Biden, perhaps to his left, maybe. So he was there. And then there's other people in the background, but the people that are in the background, you can see them faintly, but they have like snow and lightning on them. Okay, so I'm bringing it back to the Queen Elizabeth in the cardboard state. So I'm thinking, so now that she's a cardboarder, now that she's stiff as a board, what is this the last call for? And isn't it ironic that they're in a meeting for climate change, and this is the middle, we're literally in the middle of a climate crisis, you know? Because again, now if we zoom in even too on the president of China, why isn't the president of China here? And it's probably because they're drowning and melting right now. And then when I looked at Brazil, what about the Brazil? Why isn't the Brazilian president there? I guess they've had a lot of flooding, but as far as the weather, I don't think their weather was too weird from what I could, you know, gather in a little bit of time. But I think they have been experiencing like maybe rain. Maybe they'll get a lot of rain. But then, yeah, but look, they can maybe zoom in on it. But I'm like, but why is Queen Elizabeth in the snow? Why is she a piece of cardboard in the snow? And like I say, I put it as a thumbnail so you can zoom in on it to see. And mind you, this is maybe a year or so old. Yeah, but if you really analyze it, it's kind of, well, what is this the final call? And now I don't want to just sound crazy, but it could be the final call for oil, you know. And this is just me just putting two to two together, or just I guess just thinking of stuff, because I'm thinking like, what else would it be the final call for? And I'm thinking too, because that kind of made me think of Obama, because when I first seen it, I felt like Obama was in it, but he wasn't in this one when I looked it up. But that kind of gave me the idea of oil, because I don't know if you remember a few months ago where they said like Obama, he bought a not bought, but he had like installed like a, maybe like, what is it, like 1,500 gallon gas tank or fuel tank or something, where it's like, oh, he got a lot of fuel on his property, or something had to do with the fuel. But like I said, I didn't analyze it to get to the bottom of what the last call is. But yeah, I think if you look at that cover, it's pretty interesting. And it could be a wheel out of something too. And also too, remember how I mentioned too, I was kind of rejoicing. But also when you rejoice, you have to sit back, because you'll kind of think like, oh, I'm so glad they got rid of Trump, or I'm so glad they got rid of Biden. But when they get rid of these people, who is coming in next? Is that the person that's gonna get the party started? Because you'll be thinking like, okay, well, I can't wait till Biden get out the way. If Biden get out the way, that means a Negress is gonna come in, or somebody, you know, it's gonna be somebody else that's gonna be unfortunately worse than Biden. And then you would think like, oh, could it get any worse or any dangerous than Biden? Yes it can. And a lot of that will come from your Negroes. And like I say, that's where Obama came in. He came in as that. You won't see this one coming, because everybody be too busy praising him. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what is the final call now that she's cardboard? The final call, Or maybe that's just, okay, maybe that's just like the last, or could it be the final season? The final season, because like, mind you, in the picture, everything was pretty much winter. If it wasn't winter, it was like sleet and lightning. So it was some kind of bad storm. It was like, it's a bad storm coming with fire in the background. You know, there was fire in the background. And even with the climate, I would say maybe the climate, yeah, it could represent climate, because it was snow, rain, lightning, and fire everywhere. But it was in the background. The fire was in the background. That is about true though, because the fire, even here, it's in the background. You won't know that California is still on fire. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, snow. And I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, was it Europe? They said some place was frozen. I don't know if it was Europe, because I felt like they were just in a heat wave. But they said some place is like frozen right now, kind of like it's cold. They're experiencing the cold part of the weather. The rain, of course, you know, there's a lot of people getting flooded out with rain. Yeah, but the interesting thing was, and the only thing I can think of too, as far as why did those presidents have placemats, or why weren't they actually in the picture? And these weren't actual, there was actually a drawing too. It was kind of weird. You have to really zoom in on it. Like, what does this mean? It definitely means something. Everything, pictures are very symbolic. They you know, it's kind of like speaking without speaking. Like if I show you a picture of maybe like an empty glass or something, it could, you know, you could take it any way. But if you know what I'm talking about, you could be like, okay, well, I'm gonna need you to fill this glass up, or pretty much like, okay, yeah, when I bring the glass, you bring me something to put in it, or, you know, it could be some type of subliminal. Yeah, but and I don't even want to call this conspiracy theorists, because at this time, at this day and age, and at a time such as this, I'm thinking there's no such thing as conspiracy. You can't really say, oh, that's conspiracy theory, because you'll think like, oh, this is conspiracy theory, but that same conspiracy that you were talking about is actually happening right before your eyes. So I wouldn't say like, hey, if you were a conspiracy theory, what would you think about this? Like, no, okay, well, if you open your mind, or if you were to analyze this picture, what do you get from the final call, or the last call? What do you get from that? I mean, like, if you were to be, you know, on the outside looking in, like, if you were to figure them, like, what are these demons in meat suits, or AKA known as the elites, it's quote unquote, but it's like, what are they saying about the last call? You know, and then why is it conveniently, well, actually, I wouldn't say it wouldn't happen, right? Yeah, but they did say it will be a shift though. Now that she's out the way, there's a shift, and it can be a good or a bad shift. Like I say, like I was excited just because I'm like, okay, it's just good to get the demons out the way. You know, there's no sense in it's only good people going. Like these demons got to go too, because these demons, they live a long time. Like if you get these demons that take over somebody's body, they're going to survive at least as long as they can. So like I say, Queen Elizabeth has been around for a long time. She survived almost a whole century in a meat suit. Okay. That's in a damn meat suit. And all of her counterparts and all of her peers, they spilled off in 2020. You know, they died with COVID, and she's still holding on. So, like, there's no telling, and that's if she's, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I found that really interesting. And I'm thinking, like, okay, again, too, that made me zoom in on, like, okay, well, what's with the placeholders? Like, oh, could they not be here because they're having climate problems back at home? Because I know China, if they're not getting flooded right now, they're melting, literally. They said it's so hot there that people's shoes are melting off their feet when they go to cross the street. Yeah, so I can get it as far as the China president, why he's not there. Like, okay, because perhaps, you know, they're having, you know, technical difficulties with the weather. Then the Brazilian one, he wasn't there either, the Brazilian president. I looked up the names didn't look familiar. Like, who are these people that's supposed to be sitting next to Biden? And they're presidents as well, but one was a Brazil president and one was the China president. Yeah, but that picture is actually very interesting, and it speaks 1,000 words. Yeah, if you know how to break things down. But to me, I think I'm really just trying to get to the bottom of what's the last call for what? What is the last call? It's like, okay, last call, and it's conveniently after Queen Elizabeth is in cardboard form, you know, because she wasn't actual. She was just there on a piece of cardboard standing in the snow. Just look at the yeah, look at the cover. Yeah, I put it as a thumbnail too, and then you go look it up too. You can look up the Time magazine cover, last call 2021. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was released in February, but I don't have the exact month, but it definitely was 2021 last call from Time magazine. That cover, check that cover out, it's pretty interesting. All right, yeah, but that just made me think of that, you know, literally after her demise, I'm thinking like, but once she's out the way, what's coming in after her, you know? And they said they got that nasty son of her that's, and for some reason he might be, well, I don't know if he can be any more evil than her, but I mean, I guess he's still evil too. Hey, evil is evil. You can be like, hey, ain't no such thing. I'm more evil. It's evil is evil. So yeah, with him, I don't know much about him. I just know he just looks nasty to me. Yeah, but I guess he's supposed to be taking the wheel now. Yeah, but it's kind of like, you know, you get out with the old, in with the new, you know. So what who's up to bat? And also too, watch out for the Obamas. It's like they're still sniffing around, and I'm thinking like, what are you still sniffing around for? They're kind of suspicious too. They're significant too. They have something to do with what's upcoming events too. So I don't trust them. I don't trust any of the presidents really. Definitely don't trust Biden. I don't trust Trump either, even though I would be more comfortable with Trump. I don't trust him either, because you can't really trust anyone who's puppeted around, you know, because he can be like, oh, I'm gonna put my foot down, but it's like he still has someone to answer to too, you know. People that portray like, oh, you ain't telling me nothing, I do what I want to do, but it's like, but somebody's still kicking your door in, or you know what I mean, they're still making it seem like, oh, okay, well, somebody has control over you and they want to be on your business, so like, you can't really trust anything that can be manipulated. Yeah, but zooming on that made me zoom like, yeah, but anyway, but I hope all are safe. If I get any other epiphanies, or if I get any leads, I will be back.